Imagine it is 3 a.m. The world is silent, but inside your head, a stadium of voices is screaming. You are lying perfectly still, yet your mind is sprinting, replaying a 10-second interaction from 3 years ago. You analyze the way you stuttered, the awkward pause, and the look in the other person's eyes. Why does your brain treat a minor social slip-up like a life-threatening wound? Why are we programmed to be our own most brutal interrogators when the rest of the world has already forgotten? But here is the chilling truth. This isn't just overthinking. It is a sophisticated yet glitchy survival mechanism that might actually be keeping you trapped in a version of yourself that no longer exists. Have you ever wondered why your mind refuses to let you heal, choosing instead to pick at the same old scabs every single night? Let's peel back the layers of the ruminating mind to see what's really happening behind those closed eyes. But here's the chilling truth. Most of us believe that replaying past conversations is a form of emotional preparation, a way to learn from our mistakes so we don't repeat them. We tell ourselves that if we just find the right words we should have said, we will finally achieve peace of mind. However, psychological science suggests the exact opposite. This process, known as rumination, is not a problem-solving tool. It is a cognitive trap that paralyzes the present. According to a seminal study by Susan Nolen-Hoeksema, 1991, rumination significantly predicts the onset and duration of depressive episodes. Unlike healthy reflection, which focuses on, how can I improve? Rumination obsessively asks, why did this happen to me? And what is wrong with me? It's like trying to navigate a forest by staring only at the mud on your boots. Furthermore, research by Edward Selby, 2008, on the emotional cascade model shows that this mental replay intensifies negative emotions, creating a self-sustaining cycle of distress. But if this habit is so destructive, why does our brain keep hitting the replay button? The answer lies in how we perceive our own social survival. It's like trying to navigate a forest by staring only at the mud on your boots. But if this habit is so destructive, why does our brain keep hitting the replay button? The answer lies in the silence of the night, your mind transforms into a high-end editing suite. You aren't just remembering a conversation, you are re-editing it. This is what psychologists call the director's cut syndrome, where we obsessively polish our past performance to fit an idealized version of ourselves. You find yourself replacing that awkward silence with a witty retort or softening a tone that sounded too aggressive in hindsight. But here's the paradox. While you think you are fixing the mistake, you are actually reinforcing a sense of inadequacy. By constantly comparing your raw footage to an impossible final edit, you create a cognitive gap that breeds shame. According to research by Timothy Wilson, 2002, on strangers to ourselves, we are often remarkably poor at perceiving our own social impact in the moment, leading us to overanalyze details that others didn't even notice. Think about a time you tripped over a word during a presentation. To you, it felt like a spotlight on your incompetence. To the audience, it was a human moment, long forgotten by the time they left the room. We hold on to these fragments because we believe that if we can solve the past, we can control the future. But can you really steer a ship by looking only at the wake it leaves behind? This leads us to another chilling realization. The more we polish the past, the more we lose touch with the reality of who we are right now. But here's the paradox. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like every eye was a camera lens, zooming in on your slightest imperfection? This is the spotlight effect, a cognitive bias where we overestimate how much others notice our appearance or behavior. When we replay conversations at 3 a.m., we aren't just looking at the facts. We are looking at them through a magnifying glass of social paranoia. You convince yourself that the cashier noticed your hand tremble or that your boss interpreted your yawn as a sign of disrespect. The paradox here is that while you are the protagonist of your own midnight drama, everyone else is busy starring in theirs. Research by Thomas Gilovich, 2000, demonstrated that people are far less observant of our social fumbles than we imagine. Yet the ruminating mind ignores this data, choosing instead to build a case against itself. This persistent self-focus can lead to a social hangover, where the exhaustion of analyzing past interactions makes you want to withdraw from future ones. But why does the brain prefer this distorted reality over the truth? It's because the mind would rather feel guilty, which implies a sense of control, than feel vulnerable to the chaotic, unpredictable judgments of others. But as you spiral deeper into this imaginary spotlight, you might find yourself missing the most important signal of all. But what happens when this internal noise starts to drown out the real world entirely? The paradox here is that, but as you spiral deeper, when you replay a conversation at 3 a.m., you aren't an objective observer. You are both the defendant and a hanging judge. This is the echo chamber of self-criticism, a state where your internal monologue strips away all context and focuses solely on your perceived failures. In this chamber, a simple joke that didn't land becomes proof of your social incompetence. You lose the ability to see the other person's fatigue, the noisy environment, or the dozens of things you actually did right. This behavior is often linked to metacognitive theory, developed by Adrian 2009. Wells suggests that people who ruminate often hold positive beliefs about the process, thinking that if they criticize themselves enough, they will fix their personality. But in reality, this creates a negative feedback loop. Each replay reinforces the neural pathways of self-doubt, making the echo louder every time it returns. Imagine a character named Alex. After a team meeting, Alex spends hours agonizing over one sentence he phrased poorly. He ignores the fact that his boss nodded in agreement with his overall strategy. By the next morning, Alex is so convinced of his failure that he avoids eye contact in the hallway. Does this sound familiar? We often treat our internal critics as truth-tellers, but they are usually just terrified protectors using blunt instruments. But if we aren't fixing ourselves, what is our brain actually trying to achieve with this exhausting repetition? But if we aren't fixing ourselves, to understand why our brains are so addicted to the replay button, we must look into our evolutionary past. This isn't a flaw in your character. It is a glitch in a highly sophisticated survival system. From a biological perspective, the amygdala, the brain's emotional smoke detector, prioritizes negative social interactions because for our ancestors, being rejected by the tribe was a death sentence. Neuroscientific research by Matthew Lieberman, 2010, in his work on social cognitive neuroscience, suggests that the human brain treats social pain with the same intensity as physical pain. When you replay a conversation, your brain is attempting to perform a post-mortem on a perceived threat. It is trying to identify the exact moment the social injury occurred so it can prevent future death by exile. Furthermore, according to the Self-Regulatory Executive Function (SREF) model by Adrian Wells and Matthews, 1994, rumination is often triggered when there is a discrepancy between our ideal self and our actual performance. We repeat the dialogue because our brain is desperately seeking a resolution that doesn't exist. We are essentially using a 50,000-year-old survival instinct to navigate a modern world of coffee dates and office meetings. But while this mechanism was designed to keep us safe, in the modern era, it often leaves us stranded in an endless loop of anxiety. But what happens when this protective instinct crosses the line into something destructive? It is a glitch in a highly sophisticated survival system. But what happens when this protective instinct crosses the line into something destructive? While understanding the mechanics of your 3 a.m. replay is the first step toward peace, it is crucial to recognize where introspection ends and pathology begins. We must be careful not to romanticize this mental loop as a sign of deep sensitivity or artistic brooding. In its extreme form, chronic rumination is a core symptom of generalized anxiety disorder, GAD, and clinical depression. If these internal dialogues lead to persistent feelings of hopelessness or interfere with your daily functioning, please remember that this content does not replace professional psychological counsel or medical advice. Furthermore, we must respect the diversity of the human experience. What feels like an obsession to one person might be a culturally ingrained method of social scanning for another. However, the universal danger lies in losing the present moment to a distorted past. But how do we take all these complex pieces and actually start the healing process? We must be careful not to romanticize this mental loop. But how do we take all these complex pieces and actually start the healing process? Ultimately, the 3 a.m. replay is not a sign of a broken mind, but an overactive heart trying to protect itself. We have explored the director's cut of our memories, the distorting lens of the spotlight effect, and the evolutionary roots that keep us tethered to past social injuries. But remember, you cannot write a new chapter if you keep rereading the last one with a red pen. Healing begins when you realize that most people aren't judging you. They are too busy wondering if you are judging them. Tonight, when the replay starts, try to observe the thought without becoming it. If this deep dive into the ruminating mind resonated with you, please share your experience in the comments or subscribe to join our community of self-reflection. Your story might be the very thing someone else needs to hear to finally turn off their own internal projector. You cannot write a new chapter if you keep rereading the last one with a red pen.